Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the show. It's always really fun to sit down and talk with someone that is a student of business, a student of life, a student of improving, someone that is thoughtful, humble, and really mission and values driven and why they're doing what they're doing. And that was definitely my experience today when I sat down with Matt Torres of Rise Armament. Matt started out more as a job shop and just on the side started making some things really more for personal interest than anything. But it kind of took off and turned into their main business. And they completely pivoted, partly by the oil and gas market dropping out from underneath them. But he had already been working on these products in advance. So I think serendipitous that all worked out well. But Matt is clearly a very thoughtful guy that really is intentional about the way he builds and grows a business. He has around maybe 53 people today, about 30 on the operations side and manufacturing all their own products. But it's a really fun conversation. We talk, of course, a little bit about ProShop and the benefits they've seen there, but we also get into lots of other things about the values he holds in, building his business, growing people, core values, all that kind of good stuff that we often end up talking about. So without further ado, let's go have this great conversation with Matt from Rise Armament. Hey there, Matt. Welcome to the show. I'm glad to have you here.
Thanks for having me on, Paul. It's good to talk to you.
You as well. And I appreciate you raising your hand when I, said in our forum, hey, I'm looking for some new guests. And you guys were like, yes, let's have Matt on the show. So.
Oh, for sure. I've been listening to one of your podcasts for years now, it seems. So it's kind of a little surreal actually being on one of the podcasts here. So I'm glad I can help out too, because and talk a little bit about ProShop and our experience, because it's pretty useful. We find it pretty useful. So
that's wonderful. Well, let's talk about a little bit about you and Rise and the business and just share so people get to know you a little bit better.
Rise started in 2012, and we just started out as a job shop, contract manufacturing, focused mostly on oil and gas and aerospace industry, which is really pretty common within our area in the Tulsa area. And so we did that, and that was going okay. And I don't remember exactly when it was, 2014, maybe early 2015. I designed a drop-in trigger, and got into it. It was just basically a side business, a reason to go out and get out of the shop and go to the range and have some fun. But that side business, one thing after another kind of grew into more than just a side business. And so in fall of 2015, I'll never forget it, but it was kind of like, well, what if we really, as running shops, I kind of always was resistant from being a marketer or too much of a salesman, even though it's very critical in the industry. But having your own brand, that kind of was scary. And I'm like, well, but if we really have something, maybe we should just jump off and get into it. But the oil field being as it is, had its own say. And fall of 2015, the bottom dropped out. And so there we were. We just shoved off the cliff, ready to fly. And 2016 wasn't entirely our own brand as the Armament brand with our drop-in triggers, but most of it was. And it was really good. So we went in 2016 and had a good, successful year, and then went on a really strong growth trend for the next 6-7 years after that. We've been really blessed as far as that. And then it's just been much of a catch-up game. So adding capacity and getting in how we develop with our systems and how all of that scales. And so it's been a fun ride for sure. So we don't do any contract work anymore. And now we're just full production of our own brand and our own products, which has its own spin for sure. So.
Well, very cool. I know for many, having your own product is like an aspirational thing for shop. They always see the grass is greener. They're like, oh man, it would be nice to just, I know it's not always that way. There's pros and cons, right?
I heard that a bunch when we had our own shop. It'd be so nice to have our product. And it wasn't that I was shooting for it by any means. It was kind of just, that's the way it was. And yeah, the grass is greener type thing is definitely true. I wouldn't say it's definitely greener on this side for sure. It has its own challenges,
Sure.
It's still got its own nuances like any business, and
Right.
it's still fun industry.
So how did you decide to start the machine shop in the first place?
So I knew I always wanted to have my own business. Like I've always wanted to find a way to give back in the world and make some kind of a difference. And I figured having my own business would be a good way to do that. And the corporate world. So I was an engineer before, a manufacturing engineer by trade, and worked with large defense companies. And the corporate world just wasn't for me. So I went out searching for a business to look for, not sure what it was, and got in with a group that had me look at a machine shop that was not doing so well. And I looked at it and told them my thoughts, and then they were like, "Well, hey, I love that plan. Would you run it for us?" And so we did
So
that.
they would buy it and you would run it.
Yeah, it was really, we bought a few of the machines basically,
Okay.
and it wasn't the full investor group. They kind of did their own thing, and then but we started off with a handful of machines and went after a more unique service that we had at the time, where we had manufacturing and machining and fabrication in our shop, and we went after a different kind of clientele and had a good, I say, product service mix in that. So that's kind of how we got into it, and as far as business goes.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah, I know that that sort of entrepreneurial pull to contribute to something, do something meaningful, not just work for a big corporation. That's a common theme across many of the folks I interview. So it's definitely relatable.
Yeah, and I had no idea how much I would apply to. I always had this vision of, well, when we get successful and you have all this extra profit and this extra, I don't know, this proverbial mountain of cash in the bank, right? Then that's when we can go donate all this money and everything. And we got into it, and I think it was probably 2017 or so. We realized, I think it was a contact close to us. He kind of asked, like, why aren't you more involved with vets and things like that? And we looked, I'm like, of course, why wouldn't we be? I think at the time we had 60 or 70% of our workforce were vets at some point.
Oh, wow.
Like, yeah, it's like, of course we did. So we got into more, and we went searching for different nonprofits we could participate in. And it turns out you don't have to have a big pile of cash to help out. There's all kinds of ways. And so we really took that into spirit. I mean, one of our core values is altruism, is really trying to help serve each other and give back in some kind of way. And so we did that. Now we participate with group organizations like Folds of Honor, and we've done Wounded Warrior projects, and then Eagle Ops, lots of different organizations within that, to where we've been able to make a good amount of an impact, surprisingly, which I'm really proud of and pleased to do that while we're still scaling and growing a company, which, as you know, you don't have that many extra profits when you're growing at that kind of pace. So
yeah, funny that when we started our machine shop right out of college, what we really wanted to start was a small niche car company, and we figured we would not have success doing that right out of the gate because it's very expensive to start a car company. But similar to you, perhaps in a way, we were pretty naive, thinking, well, if we start a machine shop, in no more than a couple of years, we're going to have all this free cash flow, all this free time. The business will be just running by itself. And we could then take some of that profit and free time and go build a prototype and go find some investors, and then really start a niche car company. Little did we know there was no free cash flow, no extra time, and
you got to find a way to pay the bills and
yes, sometimes not pay ourselves, and all those things. So it's just funny how naive you are at like 23 years old.
I know. I like to say I was smart enough to start a business, dumb enough to start a business as well.
That's a good saying. I like that. So tell me about what the business was doing, where you were at, maybe a snapshot of it, and what was maybe not running as well as or as smoothly as you wanted when you decided you needed some kind of different software system to help organize and run the business.
Yeah. So we're kind of unique in the sense that when we started out as a contract manufacturer, we had an ERP system. We had a couple of them, and my job boss, I don't remember exactly what they were, but they definitely didn't work when we got into more high volume production stuff. And so we actually ended up going to just a very simple system, offline, pure Kanban bins. A bin is empty. It ends up there, fill an empty bin. Very simple, and it works. And actually, we still have it to an effect because it's a good backup and everything. But what we were continued to face is as our product line continued to grow, it was really where simplicity and complexity started, but they were colliding really. And as we added more and more products and different variants to what we offer and what we manufacture, it was just this continual resistance of having a system and a collection of processes there to be able to handle this, and then keep track of all of it, and then have the data of what you're making, and then of course the quality of what you're making, and the complexity just scales exponentially. So I knew I had to have something. Like, we were going to have to do something. We're either going to have to scale back and oversimplify our product life and just be okay with that, or we're going to have to find some kind of way to manage this and handle how we're doing all of this. So that's where we got into looking at different systems and just keeping my eyes open. And like I said, I'd been familiar with ProShop for quite a while, but never thought it would work with high volume stuff. And I know that's typically where the majority of ProShop customers might be job shop for sure. But I think there's a fair amount that are production, including us.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
And it does work. Every shop has its nuances for sure. But that's kind of where we went into it, and like, okay, well, maybe this can work. And that's when we looked into ProShop and decided, yeah, okay, let's go in this path. That was probably two or 3 years ago, something like that.
Yep.
So that's when we looked into that, and then we tried to get to it and make it work. We hit some roadblocks because there are certain inventory systems that have to work with an EDI system that works with our big retailers. We sell a lot of our products to large retailers and distributors, and they have to interact. And so that was a little bit of roadblock. And then the internal resistance, it was just on another level of, I almost didn't want to make it work because they were just comfortable with the current systems that we had and that kind of thing.
So common.
Yeah. And so we actually kind of paused for a while, and then it was just kind of like, I was just out of ideas. Like, how are we going to do that? And then that was one time when you visited, and you're like, well, why don't you split it up and act like it's its own customer? And so I took that, we ran with that, figured out some nuances, and then that's when we were kind of really running up and running with ProShop. So now it's like NetSuite is our ERP system that handles really just inventory and the sales side of things.
Right, the retail
the retail sales side of things, like the CRM and that kind of thing. But all of manufacturing, the backbone of it is ProShop, and it's really, we're not as integrated as I'd like to, like 100% using every single module, but we're using the majority of it, and it's been hugely helpful so far.
That's cool. Yeah. I mean, you're definitely a bit of an edge case, with this very big retail component and no job shop component at all. And yeah, you're right. We never designed ProShop for like front end website, EDI, that type of interactions. And we're like, I don't know. But fulfillment of like, yeah, I need 10,000 of these and 5,000 of those and 1,000 of these on these dates. We do that all day long.
And that's essentially how we have it set up.
Right.
ProShop serves an internal customer, just like that. And so it works. It works great. We're able to track our internal work orders as if they're customer deadlines. Right. And so even though they're filling up stock and that kind of thing.
Sure. Do you guys hold any certifications? Do you need to in the business, like ISO or anything like that?
We don't have to. So when we did aerospace, we were AS and all of that. We had let those certs expire.
Mm-hmm.
Though this has given us an opportunity to where we are definitely operating compliant within probably closer to an ISO standard rather than an AS. But my intention is to operate on the level of have a quality management system to where it is operating at AS level. We may not ever get certified. We don't have to, but I'd like to operate on that level because there's a lot of good things as much as sometimes that AS cert can be a little bit of a headache in maintaining everything. There's a lot of good benefits to it. I mean, it's a operating system for manufacturing. So it's like, why would we not use it? And ProShop enables that with that, we got this flying start package, and that really helped out and helped us kind of jumpstart us into how we use processes and things like that. But the integration with the whole QMS with ProShop makes it to where we can operate in line with AS, and it's not much of a stretch. It's not that whole extra level of having that offline. Yeah.
Is that what you did previously?
Yeah, that's what we did.
Completely separate. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, it was, those audits and the disasters, like no sleep. Or,
Yeah, I can see the trauma on your face as you remember those times.
Yeah. Not fun. But with ProShop, I'm kind of like, oh, let's get an audit. There's no reason to do it, but I just want to see how easy it would be because I'm pretty certain it would be pretty simple.
Yeah. I actually recorded this morning with another customer who just got their AS for the very first time, and they were an oil and gas shop, and so had never done anything AS related. But yeah, and they were ISO previously, but in an old traditional system, and always took weeks to prep for audits, and this one, even the first audit ever, was easy. He said it could have been half the time. Just the auditor knew a ProShop and said, "Oh, okay, well, this is going to be easy. Let's just go through it and have fun." And it was, easy. So,
yeah.
So, but wanting to do it just because it's a little bit of a glutton for punishment, but,
yeah, no, it's probably a little overstatement, but the drastic of the difference is there.
Yeah,
so.
I get the sentiment and I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think just going back to the way you're using both systems, I think it's great to use a system for what it was built for and intended. Because I know we're not as good on the front end side of things with retail. I don't know how much you tried NetSuite to actually run the manufacturing operation, but I've heard that's not necessarily easy because that's not really what it was designed for. And so choosing the right size tool and plugging it in at the right spot is just a great concept. And, yeah,
it's what's worked for us. NetSuite, their manufacturing extension, I'm sure it's extremely capable. Like their other, like all of their modules are very capable, but capability and efficiency are two different things for sure. And they get to where we would, it would just have to have so much extra support in creating the systems and making it just the system work for us that it just wasn't feasible at all. But when you get into ProShop, it's like, well, it's designed for that type of manufacturing that we do. So it makes it where the administration and the structure of the system is, you don't have to think about it as much. You're not worrying about that admin of the setup of the system as much. You can just operate.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. So what, maybe share a little bit about the impact of just like maybe how the workflow has changed, either in the office or in the shop. And I don't know if you had paper traveler packets before, or you were just using your Kanban system and not really anything traveler related, or how did that work?
We didn't have anything really traveler related on one side of the shop where we had high volume stuff. It was more just all offline Kanban bins. But to track that stuff and then track the quality results and our throughput and things like that, it was through spreadsheets, really. So we didn't really have paper. It was all offline after we went more production route. But it was, the flow of it is probably, it's better overall for sure on our lower volume type stuff. We might have runs of 200 or 1,000 or something like that, but they're more discrete rather than a continuous flow. They're definitely more. We have better stock levels. I'll put it that way. Like the end result is we're in stock more on those kind of products because jobs don't just sit there or get ignored or get lost in translation. Like we know they're there and we have that reminder to work them. So it really helps on that side of things. With the production side of things, it's not so much the flow that we saw the benefit from, but what we get from just the good diligence. So like IPCs, having your in-process checks right there, even though we did require them, we didn't have that mechanism right there to made it really, really easy for the operators. And two, we didn't have as much of an accountability loop that Pro Shop does have there. You can go to any work order and just see what the results were. And so it makes it a little bit more discreet per work order in Pro Shop. So where you can not only has better traceability, of course, but it also has that accountability there too. And we are also tracking and the quality issues they surface quicker, closer to the source. And so it's really helped out on that front, which has helped us be more efficient with our material and things like that.
Has that actually lowered scrap rate, like internal scrap rate, things like that?
Yeah, it has. I think that's fair to say. I don't know. The numbers say it does by a little bit, but I question how we were tracking it before and how accurate those numbers were. So I think it's probably even a bigger result, bigger than what that was. I know it has financially overall, just what we've been just paying for.
Got it.
But our quality has always been good we're one of the highest quality compared to our competitors. But what had happened is our quality escapes from the source we were catching them basically at assembly or somewhere downstream. And now we catch a lot more further upstream, closer to the source. And that's really helped out with our scrap rates and the overall costs because we're able to address that closer to the source and quicker. So it's more relative type of action that we can take actions on.
So going back to the concept of sort of following an ISO AS system, even if you don't need it, this is one of the benefits of doing so. And are you using like the corrective action module to take an NCR and say, oh, this was the cause, we can solve the root cause of that if we follow a formal process?
Yep. We're not perfect at it. We're starting to get into it. So there's only a few shop employees that were here that long ago when we used to do it before. So we're not perfect at it. So there's a lot of training and we have to teach them people how to use it and when we would use a car. But the fact of having it just right there integrated, I'm like, guys, no, we don't need to do all of this offline. We can it's right here. It leads us right through the problem solving. And so we do try to do that. We have used it a few times. There's a lot more opportunities we could, but we're getting into where we don't want to overwhelm.
Sure.
Because we can.
Yeah.
But it's definitely helped with our problem solving on the ones we have, and it's something we're continually pushing on that area. Just use that module more and more.
Sure. Well, I guess at the end of the day, whether it's formalized with cars or not, and it's just like, hey, we just found a problem, let's just attack it right now and fix this right away. And the net result is you're finding it faster, solving it quicker, having less scrap, and all the downstream effects of not having to deal with the waste of bad parts. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and that's where really finding that line of when does it deserve a car or not, because the bigger issues that we've faced definitely had it that we didn't know the immediate solution to. We would get into a car, but there was a lot of little things that we just could make little corrections immediately and use that. So there's a lot of practice that goes into it, getting really proficient in using these systems that actually benefit us. That we're just we don't have those habits ingrained, the behaviors there.
That's incredibly common. So you're a good company with even job shops that want to be certified and do these things, but just building the muscle memory, building the gut instinct to just do it, and and have all the buy-in across the company is like, yeah, this is actually going to help us all, even if it seems like a little bit of extra work right now. So, yeah, super common.
That's one thing that I've noticed that it's really helped once you do get that buy-in, and it took a bit, but once we found those champions who really leaned into it and they were like, they saw the benefit, even though it might actually be a little extra work, which really shouldn't be extra work if they're doing the IPCs, because they said they were doing it the whole time, but they see the benefit to it because they know that, okay, now they can actually be part of the solution and help out.
Mm-hmm.
Then that makes the whole, if we want to push another section of like in cars, or another section of a pro shop, like training right now is a big push. We're trying to really use that module. And so it's like that we have almost no resistance because we already have those champions there. And they're like, okay, it's good on the other stuff. Well, let's do this because it's going to probably be good too. So.
Right. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that's just kind of speaks to the momentum of the buy-in and just seeing proof that it has helped and just being more open and receptive to new ideas. And that's cool.
Yeah.
It's a good cultural change overall, I think.
It's been very beneficial. Yeah. In just a cultural way of our expectations and overall just what's expected of each other and ourselves, like how we should behave.
Is that sort of like a small raising of the bar of just how everyone operates and the expectations of the team?
Yeah, I'd definitely say so, for sure. Like the training module is a funny one because we're going through it, and a lot of a cultural thing that we've said is like when we were first just working on the basics with work orders is like, hey, if it's not in pro shop, it didn't happen. Like, but the part's right here. It's like, yeah, but if it's not, it didn't happen. Take credit for it. And so we get into the training. It's the same kind of thing. It's like, no, if you didn't mark him off as certified, even though you might have gone through the training and he is perfectly competent in his role, and that might be the case. But if it didn't actually, you sign him off. So if they're everyone's starting to realize that if they take a little bit of the extra effort to be disciplined enough to, record IPCs, to check people off on the certifications of training, that even though that seems like extra work and seems like extra time, it frees up so much extra time because they don't have to think about that kind of thing. Like, who's qualified to set this job up, or who can perform this maintenance task, or whatever it is. It just takes all of that extra thinking and decisions out of it. And so now it's almost like a sense of a relief, a sense of freedom for some people. You kind of see it on their expressions. And so they're able to just focus on more of what actually applies to their job. And so that's kind of cool to see, because it definitely it does change each culture.
That's cool. How many folks are in the team, in the company?
So we have 53, 54 total probably. And I think I would say about 30 is probably on the operation side, manufacturing side.
Okay. Yep. Well, what you're describing, the reason I ask is those, like the concept of let's do it according to the system we're putting in place. And yeah, it might seem like something that is a bit of a hassle, but trust me, it'll all smooth out and work out. That's a universal thing that pretty much every company goes through, especially as they get a little bigger. And it's not just a tiny core group of people that everyone knows what's going on all the time, but having to build in the systems. And some companies, lean into that right away and I think see the benefit, and others, don't, and they just kind of resist it for a long time. And then they start causing themselves all sorts of problems because they're operating like a small company, but now they're like a little bigger, mid-sized company, and things fall down because not everyone knows what's going on anymore. And it's like, well, should he be doing that? Are they trained to do that? Can you assign that to him or not? Or, did they check this? And so I like hearing you talk about how, your team is recognizing that and you're guiding them towards that direction. But it's super universal.
Yeah, it's really good to see that that's the thing. You mentioned that point of you get in a small, when you said your smaller team. I remember we were 8 12 people whenever. And we implemented a business system with EOS and that kind of thing. And it like required weekly meetings and things like that. I'm thinking we're 8 people. Really? We need meetings? Like, this is what I'm escaping from. But really what it made me realize is like, shoot, having those rhythms and just the things that are going to happen and methods in place to really kind of ensure that traction there. Having that there just helps the business just grow to another level and really scale. And when I see the same effects with ProShop, it's a head slapping kind of moment as the leader of the business. You're kind of like, man, I should have done this the whole, a long time ago. And your point to where maybe there's something there is you should act bigger than you are, because there's probably a good reason for that. Because every time I've been forced into that direction, it's kind of allowed us to spring to the next level.
Yeah, it's an interesting debate and conversation that I definitely have. We have a number of clients that got ProShop as one of their very first thing they did as a company, right? They're like 1 or 2 people and they're buying ProShop. And it's like, well, that's an interesting choice. But they're like, I just want a foundation of how I'm going to run my business from the beginning. And it's going to be so much easier to do it now than do it later. And the relative cost compared to what we're going to grow and facilitate our revenue and ship more products and be more efficient, it's a drop in the bucket. So
if I was in that position, I'd probably do the same, because you already have that in place. It's less resistance. Yeah. The cost of it is way less resistance than what you're going to have implementing it later down the road.
Sure. Yeah. And then you have other folks who are like, oh, you don't need any kind of ERP until you're at least 25 or 30 people. It's like, maybe, and I'm guessing that comes from probably bad experiences with big bloated systems that really don't actually help on the manufacturing side nearly as much. They're more really just like an office front end overhead type of system.
It's more finance based. There's a lot of those that kind of stem from accounting perspective. Yeah. That's, I don't agree with the second perspective in that as far as where I'd go. I think it would be better. It would be better to have that structure there. And the thing with ProShop, it's not, I've had my fair share of experience with ERP systems, and it's not just a transactional type of system, where like maybe most people might be familiar with QuickBooks, where it's like, okay, it logs entries and it will handle your checks, payments, and things like that. It's very transactional. Where ProShop it has the transaction side of things for sure, but it integrates. It's a business system for manufacturers. The way I see it, anyways. It with the QMS, the training, everything else that goes into it. It's your business playbook. I mean, that's it. So if I was starting over, I'm like, yeah, of course that would be one of the first things. It might be 4, but get it before employee number 3. Because you'll be able to do so much. And so it definitely stands out in that way. I think. I don't think it's through. It redefines ERP system in my book.
So we have an opening in our marketing department. You looking for a job? That was pretty good.
Yeah.
I like the way you're thinking about it.
No, see, I've been hanging out with my sales and marketing guys too much, just getting in your own brand. They're probably in my head. Who knows the kind of decisions they had me making.
That's funny. I do actually want to come back and talk about running a product business kind of separately. So, but before I do that, you mentioned a core value, and I was wanting to ask a little bit more about that. This is a topic that comes up on core values and sort of mission, vision, and culture come up on almost every podcast I'm a part of, even if it's about accounting or who knows what. But did you have those when you were a contract manufacturer? Is that something you adopted as the product business, or talk a little bit more about that?
We had them starting out because I felt like we had to have some kind of core, and it was kind of hard to determine because they were basically just portions of my own extension of my own values. So I figured that was just a good place to start. We didn't have a great or solid mission or purpose that I can remember at the time, but it's one of those things that kind of evolves too. Because at first you get into business. I guess some people get into business knowing, no, I'm going to change the world with this one product, and it stays there. I'm sure that happens, but a lot of times it just evolves into something different. And so we had a set. I think we had 3 or 4 core values at the time, but then I don't remember exactly when, maybe 2008, 5, 6 years ago, we took another look at it and said, hey, yeah, these are our core values, but we surveyed the company and figured out what's important to us. Gave a little more credence to those who we felt like fit us more and were true A players. And so that's when we then expanded our core values and kind of reworded them a little bit to 8 right now. And so we didn't really have it at the time, but I would, when we were a contract manufacturer, I would put more emphasis on it if I got a chance to go back, because it does do a lot of good. Now, of course, if it's just a poster on the wall and that kind of thing, it doesn't do much good, which we all know. But if no one want to know now on how it should integrate and how people, how you remind people and how you behave around it and how we use it as a check for ourselves to make sure we're just kind of like heading in the right direction and behaving in the right way on that path. It is, I don't know how you do without it, essentially. And so, yeah, it's definitely important. One of those things should have taken it a little bit more more importance, but you get busy in the day to day and you're just going.
Oh yeah. It's that 2020 hindsight thing.
Yeah. But it's definitely important for sure. If it's used right.
So for those listening that haven't adopted that yet or feel resistance to doing so, what would you say to someone that's in that spot right now?
Well, if you're talking mission and vision, I would say don't worry about it not being big. Like it doesn't have to be a Steve Jobs level or Elon Musk level, saving humanity and that sort of thing. It can be just like, hey, I want to be able to build something big enough to give, 50 grand back to my community or add so many jobs. It doesn't have to be huge as far as the purpose, but it does have to be, it needs to last, it needs to be long enough. So whatever that might be. And if it's core values, I would look, survey, what you want, how you want to take, how you want to do business, how you want your team to do business, how you want them to, act. And that's really a guiding light. That's where you should start, I would say. Maybe that would help a little bit. I'm not sure. And
then do you sort of hire and fire by those values or make big decisions based on that lens?
We do. We hire and fire. So our hiring process, we have a whole evaluation of based off of our values. We make sure we cover it and we're very clear in it, and that people coming into the company know what to expect of them. And then every quarter we have we call a team talent assessment, where each leader is responsible for going through their whole team and rating them. Not only on the performance, off KPIs and things like that, but also off of how they behaved in the values. And one of our values is integrity. And this is always kind of people get defensive when you don't rate them as a plus. And understandably so. It's like, what? No, I'm honest. And, they take it that way. And so we use it as, it's like, no, it's not that you're not honest. Look at it as a mirror. Did you operate in that way? No one's perfect, and so it's just were your behaviors most aligned with the value most of the time or not. It doesn't mean you don't have it. It's just a good reflection. And so that's all that's what we use it for, is just a feedback so that people can see how they're being perceived. Even though maybe their intent was to do everything fully with full integrity, but maybe they're like a little too closed. They kept cards to their vest or whatever. And it's like, well, maybe you didn't need to in that situation. So having those systems continually integrated helps us stay on track and kind of be accountable to ourselves.
Where did you even come up with the idea or the system for doing that process with your team?
So A lot of different books. I would say so. We have the EOS system that there's flavors of that integrated in there. There are flavors in the scaling up, Vern Harnish, his Rockefeller habits, that kind of thing. There's elements of that in there. There's a lot of different flavors to it. I would just pick and choose. I'm like, okay, this is what we need to do to help kind of integrate it. Right. A lot of trial and error though, and keeping it simple enough. Right. You know, I'm still a typical engineer. I can over complex things. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, it sounds like you're a real student though of books and learning and process and just trying to always improve.
Yeah, that's pretty core to my natures. I'm usually always reading, have multiple books going on, and trying to figure out different ways to do things, to improve, to help our business and help others. It's you know, if I got into a business, if I thought it was going to help make a difference, that's my biggest lever right now to make a difference. So anything I can do to any one little single insight could help take another order of magnitude to the next level.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Beyond the reading, and I don't know if you did, when you did EOS, did you have a facilitator or sort of coach for that, or just do it yourself?
Yeah, just kind of did it ourselves throughout the whole thing.
Have you had any formal mentorship? Some people, it's a big part of what they do is seeking out mentors and, you know, learning from them beyond just reading.
Yep, I've had a couple of coaches, you know, like business coaches in different aspects. One was kind of more from a just overall scaling type of view of scaling the business. Had him for a couple years, and then I've been getting more and more into coaches. I usually have some coach for some kind of area as I expand, because they bring different insights and tools and frameworks. But at least for me, anyways, it's more or less like the kick in the pants, or the kind of, you know, the looks like, really, that's what you're doing, Matt? Like, it's that kind of thing that is just a good kind of check for yourself.
Yeah, that's cool.
I definitely recommend having coaches. That's helped me take another level. But you got to be ready for it too. You know, I don't know that I would have been ready for it early on. When you're working on all kinds of the crazy hours of small business and that kind of thing. So,
is that what you mean by ready? Just the actual bandwidth hours, or like the humility to take the feedback, or some of each?
Well, I guess it depends what it is. It's probably emotional maturity, maybe, to be able to take the feedback and know what you're talking about. But you got to know, it doesn't help much when you have a business coach saying, like, you don't know what you don't know. You know, I had that early on, and I'm just like, I'm getting nothing from this at all. You know, the advice that I took away was like, oh, go work harder. And I'm like, okay, you know, go get that experience. And so there's an element of that. It's like, just get out there and do it for sure. And apply the knowledge to it. But then it gets to a point to where, at least for me, where the business needed to scale, and it just took another level of thinking to it, and another level of just things you read about, but you don't know exactly how to apply them. That's where I really saw the value in business coaching and different mentorships and things like that.
Very cool. That's a great takeaway. I appreciate you sharing that. What are some of the most memorable or really impactful experiences you've had as a business owner?
There've been a lot, for sure. I don't know if we're just that lucky or what it is, but we've had a lot of high profile people visit our shop, and, you know, from governors and senators and politicians, and of course more war heroes than you could, you know, like the guys, they're real heroes. And that stuff's all cool and everything, but really, when it comes down to it, and it's just what I find the most valuable as far as satisfaction and rewarding is when you see, it didn't have to be necessarily younger, but the people on the team that, you know, it's not that they don't believe in themselves, but they try something, and you're just like, no, just try it. Like, you can do it. And then they achieve it, and they never thought that they could. And then it opens up their eyes to what seems to them all kinds of unlimited potential, and that had that light, and like that's the rewarding part, because then they start seeking. And once you finally can get someone to have the will and the drive to actually go learn more, and they learn what they don't know, and then that motivates them. Seeing people take that step and to do things that they never thought imagined themselves to do, like that's probably the most rewarding for me as far as how it's been overall in my business journey.
Yeah, that's beautiful. A guy that I know pretty well talks about lighting someone up, right? And it sounds like you're talking about a similar thing. Like maybe they, had jobs or work that just wasn't particularly engaging, and they just weren't out that into it. But if you can like spark, something in them that really just gets their eyes lit up, and they're like, oh my gosh, like I love this, and I'm going to push hard, I'm going to learn, I'm going to contribute. Like there's no better feeling than that.
Yeah, I know. Because it just changes. It just changes. I mean, from your experience, it changes the trajectory of people's lives, and there's the cascading effect that they can have on things. Because who knows how many generations that could change. Just because now they don't see themselves as just a $15 an hour employee sweeping shop floors. Now they can go earn way more, and not only that, now they're teaching their kids and people around them that they can go achieve more. And so it makes a difference for sure, what we do. And that's what I try to tell people. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter what you do or what situation, you can always make an impact. It's mostly just perspective of how we do it, how we look at things.
That's awesome. That is the best reason to be in business and to have a team, is to, grow people. And one of my other guests recently on Machine Shop Mastery podcast, he said, a lot of people hire people, use people to build a business, and he uses his business to build people. Right. And
that's a good way to look at it. Yeah.
They hire people from jail. They hire, people that need second chances, and really invest in them. He said they've helped 28 people buy their first home. That's cool. Really doing impactful, meaningful things. And the business is there to serve as a tool to empower and grow these people. It's such a wonderful way to look at it.
At the very least, why not both, right?
Yeah, absolutely. They're doing, it's a big successful company. But, I think that mindset of sort of being heart-led and people-led is an amazing way to have good business outcomes at the same time. And then you can help even more people, right?
Right. I mean, it's funny. The business coach, one of the things he says is, you build the people will build his business. He's like, so just focus on the people, just worry about, training them, making sure they have what they need, and caring for them. And the business, it almost becomes a side effect, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a cool way. That's a cool way to look at it.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, maybe one last question, Matt. Can you just maybe imagine for me if you had decided not to go down the pro shop path and were just continuing to do whatever you were doing previously? How do you think things would be different today? How would you be today? What would that look like?
It would definitely be different. We'll put it that way. So I think I mentioned it before, but I think I would have to be faced with either. Well, I guess we would just have to simplify our lines to make it work with our system. Either than that, or we're pulling our hair out working with some other kind of system, like trying to make NetSuite's manufacturing thing work. But I don't really see that being hard to imagine, honestly. And it's really one of those things you don't want to imagine because it's just a little too scary. You don't realize how close to the cliff you might have been, but then to look down is kind of one thing. But I mean, we had a simple system. It was effective. And I think we would just have to been faced with really kind of scaling down and being okay with a less variety of our product lines. And I don't think that really fits, it definitely doesn't fit within my DNA. And I don't think it does within the business too, because we want to continually grow and strive. So it would be radically different for sure. And we wouldn't have as much hope for being able to scale our operations with the rest of the business that we know we can accomplish as far as in the market goes, so it would be wildly different. For sure.
All right. Well, we're glad that we can contribute to that and help you build your business the way you want to build it and not have constraints on it. So, or at least the ones you were describing. So,
well, I appreciate it. It's been a great tool and has really been instrumental. And as we continue to grow into it, it's been I expect to be it to be even more beneficial as we continue to grow and evolve into the system.
All right. Well, if people want to learn more about you, your business, your products, would you suggest they go to risearmament.com?
Yep.
Or any other suggestions?
Risearmament.com. You can follow us on Instagram, on any social, things like that. I'm also trying to do more social myself, so you can follow me at my Instagram. It's Matt Torres Rise right now. Just Matt Torres Rise. And I'm just kind of one of those things that the business coach is trying to get me to do is just share your story. Help out is another way to get your word out and maybe help others. So any of those sites, you can follow us, learn more, get hold of us that way.
All right. Well, thank you again for the trust to be a partner in your journey. Thanks for being on the show today and sharing your story and your thoughts. That was really fun conversation, and you shared a lot of good wisdom. So appreciate that.
Well, thank you, Paul. I really appreciate it. It's been great. It's been fun.
All right, Matt. We'll see you around. Thanks so much again.